Okay, there we go. Welcome to our second half of Quantum Leap. My name's David, and we're excited to bring you Jeff Nott today. He's really a entrepreneurial wizard or expert, as you'll see. And I should have known, being Cory's older brother, but we look forward to talking to him. He's also an author, and I'm going to have Cory give a little bit more of an intro to him. But if you don't mind, just introducing yourself first, Cory, and just tell us a little bit about Jeff to set him up here before we get going.
Yeah, so Cory and I, business coach, co-owner of Take Wing Coaching, and focusing on business partnerships, helping people be together in business. And so I trying to think of how long have I known Jeff? So what am I age now?
How old are you? How old are you?
I don't want to give my age away.
A few years.
A few years, yeah. And right, so but he's a little bit older than me, so he was kind of off on his entrepreneurial journey pretty young as it was. So I think I was probably like 5 by the time you moved out. And I don't know. I don't know how long you stayed in the house, but you got married, you got kids, you got all those things. So Jeff is kind of like like the older brother doing all the things. And I think that inspired me quite a bit, once I figured out all my stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And well, we're going to let him tell us his story again. I know we've had him on once before, and there's plenty to talk about. And I remember it was great to see at that barbecue a few months back. You gave me a lot of talking business with you. And but if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about your story, Jeff. I know you have a pretty interesting career and in the some of the different pieces that you've brought you to where you are today.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on today. So my story, where do I start? Well, I was born. No, I don't need to go that far back. As far as my entrepreneurial history or business, well, I started in high school being very good with my hands, and I was in an automotive shop, and I wanted to be a master tech. And my very first job right out of high school was working for a fellow that ran a great service station in Walnut Creek. And from the very first few weeks I worked for him, I realized, wait a minute, I want to be a business owner. I want to run my own service station. And so that was my goal. And my goal was to find that service station. So the next 5 years, it was interesting looking around, thinking about how would I do that? How would I do that? And one thing I will say about goals is, yes, I had a goal, I had a dream, but I could have gotten there faster if I had some help in organizing and doing that. So, but I had a dream and I was passionate enough to do, and I looked for the right people. And 5 years later, in fact, I did have my own service station. So I was in the service station business for the first half of my life. And was I successful at first? Pretty good, successful as far as, the sales part and working with people and doing that, because I got the good gift of gab, some of my employees used to say. But the thing is, I had to learn along the way how to run a business, not just to work in the business, but how to run the business, work on the business. Got some mentors along the way, went to some classes and learned how to do that. And so anyway, in that industry, I eventually started selling automotive software programs and teaching business owners how to manage their business better and what those numbers were, and did marketing and management classes for one of the software companies I used to work for. Make a long story shorter is, about 2010, I said, I want to do this full time. I want to coach full time. I want to train people how to do that and not just sell the software programs, but actually do that. So I launched my first coaching business in 2010. And like starting any business, it was a little bumpy at first, learning how to do that. But still, every time I work with somebody, I was able to help them improve their business. And that's just my passion that drives me forward to continue doing that, because it's easy for me to find that, whether it's time or money or hiring the right people, it's easy for me to do that. Getting the owner always do that, that's the biggest challenge, but most of the time it's, again, changing people's lives in the simplest of ways. It's not difficult.
Great. And I know that's one of the most fulfilling things for me in life too, is to not only learn about something, but be able to teach it in an effective way. And I feel like you learn so much more about it by doing that. And that's what
Yep. Oh
we
yeah.
love. Yeah. We love about your story. And that's kind of why we started this podcast too. Um, and I'll just say we just wanted to regroup about your book. I know you, I believe that's the part of the cover there in the back. If you don't mind just
Yes, it
telling
is.
us the crux of your book and just set up a little bit about what you're going with it with that.
Well, the book came about in working with business owners over the years, where typically when I first started out, I had this kind of a focus sheet where we'd talk about, okay, what 2 or 3 or 4 things we're going to work on this week for our, focus. And then there was always the numbers and this and that. And it got, how many things did they get done each week? Next to nothing. I'd be lucky to get the KPIs each week, right? And which is important. I got to know that. But what I discovered is there are certain key things we need to know each week, such as the KPIs. But there's also, when do we find time to work on the business? And that's a big thing, because you can work in the business forever, and if you don't work on the business, you have a job. And my goal is to work that business owner out of the job. So 1 week, one thing came about, and saying, okay, set up 30 minutes a day to work on one thing this week. And I parsed it down into simple things they could do. They read 4 pages a week and work on this one thing, whether it be HR, budgeting, marketing, and make it simple and easy to do. In fact, one of my friends read the book and said it's also going to like business 101, because it's a little bit of education in each week, as well as, okay, getting something done. And the old adage is, getting started is half done. And we get started on something, we end up want to work a little more on it. So it's been very successful in that respect. And what's been fun is I bumped into people across the country who bought my book through they can't remember where they got it, but, oh, you're Jeff Nott. Oh, I'm reading your book. We're working in the business. It's a godsend. I love those stories. So it's not been a bestseller. I didn't mean it to be. I meant it to work with those who want to succeed in a simpler plan.
Yeah, and we've had a few authors on the show before, and I've always really find their books fascinating. That I think business books in particular, you're really writing for a certain kind of audience. That if you help a band of entrepreneurs, that's you kind of break new ground and move the field forward. And we actually have time for a wild card question I'm going to throw in here, just because I know it is a bit challenging environment out there, and especially for small business. About what are some key issues you see out there in terms of like a service owner, like what, and it's not necessarily this environment, but what holds them back generally? You mentioned you got to, the Donald Miller formula to get that airplane to fly. You got to be good in all these different categories. And if you look at small business, there's often like 1 or 2 things that they really struggle with and can sink your business. And some people who go out of business never address that. And that's a big reason why.
Well, and that's interesting. So during the pandemic, I knew a lot of businesses that just rolled up, rolled the doors, and that, okay, we're done, we're retired, whatever. And yet I know other business owners thrived. In fact, I know several business owners who had the record years. And there were some industries where it was very, very difficult to survive. Restaurants is one of them. They weren't a crucial business, right? The essential businesses got the opportunities that others didn't. But even so, there are plenty of business owners that survive because, first of all, did they make enough money not only to pay their bills every month, but to put some money away?
Right.
And they weren't prepared for that. And I know several business owners, though, were so prepared, they paid their people while they were closed because they didn't want to lose them.
Right.
And they were able to do many things that others weren't. So be willing to charge what you should for your business. I think that's one of the key things that most business owners are afraid to do. Oh, if I raise the prices, I'm going to lose clients. And yet, if you raise your prices, if you raise your prices 10%, you can afford to lose 20% of your customers and make more money. That seems crazy, but truth is the numbers don't lie. So understanding that you ask for what you're worth. And the other thing is learn to work with your people, and because your people are going to support you. I can get a job anywhere, but what makes you a destination employer? And that's probably two big things in your business. Of course, you treat your customers right, but that's, you got to do that if you want to ask for the money. Doesn't matter what, but still, I think it's important. And then the other part of it is, got to have a positive outlook. In the Great Depression, more businesses were formed, more millionaires came out of the Great Depression than any other time prior to the dot-com era.
Yeah.
And Hewlett Packard started at $750 in the late 30s. So it's that optimism that will get you through. Yes, is it going to be easy? No. But if you don't think it works, then that's how people go. They go under. They don't think, oh, I can't work it. You can. And there's plenty of other mentors that will go out there and help you.
Yeah, that's so well put, and I believe that's particularly relevant in this age, as you meant it to be, with all the disruption in the economy and the decline of older businesses. There's such potential to really see those spots if you have that positive outlook to really break out and be that extraordinary business owner. So,
Yeah.
Also during COVID, like you mentioned, if you could keep a positive outlook through that, that already gave you a leg up because other people just closed up shop. So there's just less businesses in that field, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I have one more question, and I'm going to turn it over to Cory. I just wanted to see if you have any advice for younger entrepreneurs, or maybe it's somebody buying a new service station from another field, a small business owners, on how to really get out of that grind and really kind of get on the path to successful entrepreneurship, to kind of leave this just struggling to being, where you want to be, so to speak.
Well, the biggest thing is processes, I think. I tell anybody in any business, if I was to buy a business today, I know I'd walk in with a whole bunch of processes in place and make sure that I got that set up. And I know my numbers. I got to understand the numbers, and I got to understand processes. And then I want that business to run without me. Well, if I like what I do, that's the thing. Most people like what they do, and they're good at that. The problem is that, again, you got to set up the foundation. It goes back to my business book, is that it's the building foundation that most people don't build. And if you don't build it right in the first place, it's painful. So you're trading time for dollars, not leveraging your time smartly. And think about that. You can do whatever you want, but if you don't set up the business properly, you're going to be very limited in your capability. You can't run multiple businesses if you don't have a system in place.
Yeah, and I know Michael Gerber has that legendary book on that, The E-Myth.
Yeah.
And if you have any other book recommendations, maybe we can go over that.
Scad's book recommendations.
Okay.
I'm a voracious reader. So
yeah, well,
there's a lot of great books, but E-Myth is a great book. And if you want to know more about kind of marketing and why you do what you do, another great book is Selling the Invisible, which is a great little read. It's a lot of corporate stories, but they apply to even the smallest of businesses. That's another fun read. In fact, it's been on Forbes bestseller, 10 best business books every year since it was published in 1999.
Well, impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Cory. If we have time, we can get a few more recs from you. Maybe we can close out the show with that.
Yeah, it's just I was just thinking too, going back to the optimism and so on. And some of the best business owners I've met lately are ones who started during the 2008 recession and survived it, right, and built through it. And there's always this B&I thing that's been around for a while. Kind of going back to what Dave and I talked about earlier too, on leadership, is I refuse to participate in a recession, which is it's just an attitude, right? And helping others maintain that attitude. It's just double down on everything, opportunities and networking and building those relationships. And also having your processes in place, because that's when they'll bite you. Yeah. And I remember watching service business owners, they had in the distribution and food distribution in 2008, they were getting killed by the restaurants who weren't paying their bills. Yeah. And some of them, a couple of those distributors had to go out, almost went out of it or merged. They basically had to sell their business because there's so many people owing them debt, and they didn't know what their numbers were until suddenly they were in just as much arrears and they couldn't collect.
Right.
But the ones who stayed in business, they knew what those numbers were and how much, credit they could extend to their clients, because you kind of have to in that industry, but only so much, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I am to ask, what is your why, as in like really, what is it that drives you on helping these business owners?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that in actually one of the chapters in my book talks about what's your why, or do you have a mission vision statement? And recently, in working with another group, said we really need to have a mission vision statement. Yeah, but I'm not a big corporation. Yeah, but I am. But it's me incorporated. So one of the things that my mission statement was come up with to enhance the lives of others, and that's not just a business mantra. That's a personal mission. And one of the things I've always liked to help people in one way or another, whether it be the youth groups I've worked with or other business owners. I just to do that because it's important to help other people. And that's I would say my why. And because it's easy to do. Those little things we do or don't do makes all the difference.
Fair enough. Did I have any other questions to ask there? So we asked about the challenges in the current business climate. So I guess who are you looking to connect with?
So my best business partners are other professional people, advisors to business owners. So if they're CPAs, the HR professionals, the bookkeepers, those kind, or if they're business attorneys, those kind of people are great referral partners for me because again, the business has got problems. They know they're not making the money, and those advisors or how they're handling with people, that kind of thing. Those are great people to work with. And my specialty is working with service industries. Mm-hmm. I like that. I've worked with lots of different types of companies, but service industries are my passion because it's making that wow for the customer.
Right.
It's so easy to do. And I like to see people get to that point where wow, your customer, and they'll come running and pay you what you ask for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely need to talk more. I just recently joined Provisors, by the way. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
And so now there are 3 Knotts in Provisors. I don't know if you've met Rick Nott yet.
No, I have not.
He's definitely not related, but
he's
nice guy.
Not related?
Yeah, not related. But it was very odd having 3 people named Nott in there. So.
That's fun, small world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a wild card question. It's one of the themes we talk about on this show. Mm-hmm. I know we talked about the reading, but really the big difference I see in entrepreneurs comes when they get a business coach for the first time, especially if they have that connection. I believe sounds like you would call yourself a business coach in one kind or another. So I just wanted to see if you have any thoughts on why that is and why business coaches can really deliver these results. Yeah.
First of all, the business coach can see things that you can't as a business owner. And I always refer to sports. Why does Seth Curry still have a coach? I mean, the man is the best on the planet. He's a legend, right? Why does he have a coach? Because he wants to get better, and those blind spots he doesn't see. And the thing is, it's also proven that when you have a coach, you do better than everybody else. In fact, one of the trade journals is reading that those businesses that had a coach did 25 to 35% better in their profitability than those who didn't have a coach. So it's just a matter of how soon do you want to get home for dinner on time? How soon do you want to be able to retire? How soon do you want to be able to travel and do the things you want, or whatever might be your goals? That coach can get you there faster. Yeah. Coach can get you there faster, help you make more money, and help keep your team happier.
Yeah. And there's many different kinds of coaches too. I think Jeff and I have very different sort of approaches or focuses.
Right.
And then, Gail has a different focus as well, which is more around marketing and, self-promoting. And so those become important too, because each of these things are aspects of things that we typically, even as coaches, we miss, right?
Right.
I mean, charging your value is a big issue, especially for a lot of coaches, surprisingly. And so some coaches need coaching on that. Coaches need coaching on sales coaches. Yeah. So
and the thing is, I know my value because I've proven it over and over again.
right.
And so, my latest success story is helping a guy. We've improved his revenue sales 52% in 8 months.
Right.
With just tweaks that small stuff.
Right. But I read an article also not too long ago too, that one of the primary reasons people actually hire business coaches is just have somebody to listen to them. Right. It's just, I have one client like that now. It's like, sometimes he'll ask for advice, but most of the time he just wants to give me a rundown of everything he's doing. But I think that's actually making him more successful because he gets it all into focus for the week. And then, it's just there to, I almost feel like a therapist sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is
Yeah.
business coaches tend to be therapists. In fact, I was talking to a guy that he works with business owners that, or want to sell their business and retire.
Right.
He says that part of the thing is that after we sell the business, I've got to be the counselor because they don't know what to do with themselves because they
Right.
thought about that. And the challenge with most business owners when they retire, or, sell the business, they get divorced within a year or two because now all of a sudden they're living together, 24/7. Like, what are you doing in my house? Who are you?
Yeah.
So it is an interesting game.
Yeah, I know we're just about at time. I was going to ask a couple closing two-part question here. You mentioned the importance of business processes. Is that something a coach can help you set up, or like, do you have, for example, like templates of those things for service station owners or other businesses that might?
So my book was written to be agnostic and work in any business of any size. And the thing is, it's all about setting up those processes. For instance, who reports to who in the business? Most business owners don't even have a job description for themselves.
Right.
So job descriptions are one thing, and the processes are, there's another book I read by Derek Sievers, Sivers, and he was talking about, delegate or die. But one of the problems, he said, that people didn't know what to do in different situations. So every time there was an oops, and one of those moments when the proverbial hits the fan, oh, we need a procedure. So something like that, those processes, the day-to-day stuff. What do you do when what happens? Okay, that makes a huge difference in freeing you up when you do that.
Okay, perfect. Well, we are at a hard stop here on time, and thanks so much for coming on. I'd love to take a closer look at your book, or where can people find that, if you don't mind telling us real quick?
You can find it on Amazon.com, and you can also find it, if you want it, Indigo Press has it as well.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'll get a copy of that for next time, and we can dive more into that. And I know we got to run, so thanks for coming on, Jeff. We'll keep that dialogue open.
Jake, thanks. Great to be here.
Good to see you, and we'll see you. Actually, we'll see you at the engagement party.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.